People were banging down our doors thinking that we had millions of dollars just because of the brand that we were building.
You have a background like blending creativity, media, investing, all these things. I'm curious like how that creative angle plays in your day-to-day as an investor now.
It just increases dramatically your probability of actually having an exit or having some type of success. Most investors see 4,000 to 5,000 companies a year. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job.
And just like that, we're going to make this a lot better. Welcome to Software Slices, the show where every week we sit down with a unique guest and build a unique piece of software with them. We're your hosts, Horatio and Elman, and today we're joined by our guest, Brandon Bryant, co-founder and managing partner at Harlem Capital, whose mission is to invest in 1,000 diverse founders. Brandon, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. We're really excited to chat today. Before we dive into some of the build and some of the things that we want to show you, we'd love to just hear a little bit more about Harlem Capital. If you want to just give us some background on the mission and why you're doing what you do.
Yeah, so maybe I'll high level who I am and like what Harlem's focused on. So I'm originally from Cleveland, went to Ohio State for school, studied economics there. I met Jared and Henri, the two other founding partners, 15 years ago as sophomores in college. All three of us met. We were in the same kind of like leadership programs. And then we interned together in finance, all moved to New York at the same time and lived in Harlem, were roommates, worked at the same investment banks. So the three of us got to know each other personally and professionally pretty well. And then probably like year 2 of being investment bankers, we started to invest in our neighborhood of Harlem. So we did small business, we did real estate, and then we stumbled upon early stage startups. And when you live in Harlem, I'm not sure if any of you guys ever lived in Harlem, but like Harlem is like extremely diverse, and it also has the remnants of that like history of the Harlem Renaissance. There's so many people hustling, trying to be entrepreneurial. Once you get off the train, someone's trying to sell you something, you know, like in a good way. And so I think that was like the initial vibe that we got when we moved to New York and lived in Harlem. And then as we saw the early stage startups and we saw a lot of diverse folks really needing like a voice or someone championing them, we end up just wanting to step up into that area. And then even when we were writing small angel checks, like 10, 15, 25K, people were banging down our doors thinking that we had millions of dollars just because of the brand that we were building. And it seemed like it was just such a big need in the space. And so fast forward, we now have 2 funds, 174 million across both funds, just crossed 60 plus investments. And we mainly do seed investments, so $1 to $3 million into the seed round, and typically looking for 10 to 12% ownership. And then there's a few folks in New York, 3 folks in New York, 1 person in Miami, and the rest are on the West Coast. So
Awesome.
let me know if you want any other questions on that.
No, that's amazing. It's a very inspiring story. It's amazing to see what you guys are doing, what you're doing for the community. So just props for that. Amazing stuff. We spent some time jamming on some ideas before this call, talking a bit about your workflows, about what you do for founders, how your team operates, some of the inefficiencies and things that you think you could do better. Would love to hear, I guess, how you guys are operating today and where you've found room to like incorporate AI and where you're excited about what more you could do there.
Yeah, I would say we're still a little early on AI overall, but the places that we want to figure out to lean in on AI, I think number 1 is like sourcing, like outreach, being outbound, trying to find leads, if you will. So extremely smart people who work at great companies who want to build their own company. The other piece is diligence. So figuring out a way to, how do we understand and get up to speed on a market extremely fast? How do we know what we don't know? How do we see around corners? How do we make better, faster, even like stronger ideas or stronger decisions? Yeah. And then the last piece is, what do we do post investment? What are like things that we can do to help move the needle for a founder? Yeah. And that piece is really important because the more value add you can add to, let's say, our first 10 investments, the more we can sell that to the next 10 investments of like, here's the talent we can introduce you to. Here's the problem solving we can do. Here's the tools that we have internally that are our personal tools that we have created that are proprietary that no other firm has. Yeah. And so we're really trying to lean into that space with AI. And I think phase 1, what I was telling you guys, is that we want to move things that were analog and make them automated and then try to really increase the throughput. And then eventually we can start working on nice to haves or even big swings of things we never thought we would be able to work on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it. We can show you some of the things we've been cooking up, and there's two like different kinds of ideas, two different directions. We can just see like your initial kind of reactions, and then we can take it in one of the directions.
Cool.
And hopefully by the end of this, we have something that is cool that your team can try out. It might be useful for you guys.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So when I think this is the right approach, by the way, just like starting with like analog, anything that's like a big process with like text in and you need some sort of text out, or even images out, it's a great place to start. So this is the first category of ideas. When you first mentioned that you wanted a way to easily track like founder KPIs, my initial feeling was like, oh, I wish I could just like dial you up or as like an investor and just like read out like the top level KPIs, because we do several like updates and sometimes it could be cumbersome to go manually type out a big long email as a founder that's like busy. So this is the first app. First, I'm going to show you this idea, and then we'll go to the other one, and then you give us like a gut check on which one you want to dive into deeper.
Okay.
So this is what we initially prompted up. It's basically a way to load up founders on your in your portfolio, and then you can either schedule calls to go out like monthly or weekly to just like make a call to everyone. In a second, we'll show like it has a script to basically collect and create the report for the full founder check-in. It'll ask some questions. Basically, when you make the call, the agent will ask them all the questions for their top level KPIs, and then also ask generally like what their outlook is, like how they feel about the business and the team. Yeah, so initial questions that come to mind, yays or nays?
I think this idea is extremely interesting. My perspective, so you started off by saying how busy founders might be, and they at times it can be challenging to get them to send something super detailed, on time, monthly, recurring. And so if there was ways to make this extremely a light lift, where I saw that there was something for like custom APIs or this, that, and other, or even if there was an agent where they upload a template that is extremely simple. I think I sent you guys a template.
Yeah.
If they uploaded that and the agent can just read that and then put it in the dashboard, that might be the most interesting thing, because they do that every month, and that template is almost like wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
And so while it does sound interesting that it automates the call to them, changing that new behavior or creating that new behavior, who knows what loss aversion might happen. Yeah. And so I'm curious if there's also an easy way for it just to scan the template that I send you guys, if someone were to send that every month.
Got it. So they upload the filled out template, and then it would scan.
They send that in Notion. So they send that link. So you guys had access to that Notion?
Yeah, we saw the template.
So that Notion link, basically every single person now has Notion. Yeah. And they just do that every month. Because one of our top founders was doing that, and then we just made everyone at the firm or all our portfolio companies do that. So even if we didn't know if they had Notion or not, they just adopted it. Yeah. How many times they could just do something new like that, I'm not sure. Yeah. But that's why I was asking if it could just scan that simple template, because there's like 7 different categories in that. It doesn't get more complex than that.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, the cool thing about the call aspect is like you can just easily like dump all the information and it'll like fill in the template for you.
Oh, okay.
Do stuff like that. Like if you want to just ramble, you don't want to have to like type it into every piece. So if someone's in a rush or like they're busy, they can just
So there's now a voice way, audio way to
there's another kind of mechanism. And actually another cool thing we were talking about is if it could go the other way. So instead of you sending out the call to request, anytime a founder needs something and they call you, there could be this first kind of triage step where maybe it can send you an email or send you an update like, hey, this person needs this help, and they have like a hotline that they can call at any time to kind of get some help from you or ask you a question, get connected with someone from your network.
Get LinkedIn connections in their inbox as soon as the call's over.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's like a async way to get something like alerted to me.
Yeah,
And the reason why I think that that is important, because I do think that they can easily, we have all of our founders on Slack with us, so they have
Nice.
instant messaging,
Yeah.
but they don't necessarily have instant access to everyone all the time on the
Yeah.
team. You know, we have 8 folks, and then everyone on a team can't always just drop in and see everything that founder has asked us. And so if you're saying there's a visible way for anyone on our team to be able to understand every single communication between us and our founders, specifically around value add, that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We could start playing in that direction.
Yeah. Or do you want to show? I feel like
one
this,
more
like the other
idea.
idea is
Yeah.
kind of closer in line with the document.
Oh, yeah. I'd love
parsing.
to see the other
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Because you also, from what I'm hearing, is like you could do both, right?
Yeah,
You could
I mean-
just have people who are just like, I'm not going to change this new thing.
Yeah.
And then there's some people who are like, that was time consuming
Yeah.
to write that out. And if I can just verbally update half of these things, bet, or at least that could be my first draft.
Yeah.
I don't have to write my first draft.
Exactly.
I can see that.
Sweet.
Yeah. The other idea is more on the diligence side and the research side.
Yeah.
But it kind of uses the same underlying technology of parsing the documents.
Yeah.
Which again we could use
Yeah.
if we want to go in that direction.
Yeah. So the way that we approached off like the quick call and the doc that you gave was like, hey, we get text calls with founders, pitch decks, internal research that you all do, and then obviously you have your own methodologies. And in a way, like each of those different things, kind of like whether you're scoring a company or getting the bear, base, and bull case scenarios. I'm assuming you all have kind of like a system prompt that you wish everyone kind of followed.
Master prompt. Yeah.
So the way that we fed in and started this idea was like, hey, like let's just create a dashboard that could store those prompts, but then also make it like very tailored to organizing information, documents, and chats mainly around companies. So as like a firm, like you could kind of organize, and this was like a few prompts in, so not all the pages are set, but yeah, you'd either have like a centralized place to house all your documents, and then as well as like all the analysis that you've done on specific companies in the pipeline or in your portfolio.
And so you're saying that basically if I take a call with Aman and then he sends a pitch deck, I can put that in here and then I can run any type of analysis. And will that be able to still leverage other models to just like do deep research and stuff like that?
Yeah, we were playing with like Perplexity. There's another one called Exa. So there's a couple of these like search and like research APIs, which make it pretty easy to go out there and like do a deep dive into all these different topics.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I think I would want to understand the different levels of like, here's just like so for example, when we're looking and talking to a new company, we do intro stuff, then we get all their materials, and then we do like super deep dives to build out a memo. So if there was like different ways to leverage this investor Copilot in each one of those scenarios, that would be really cool.
Got it. Awesome. The only thing that's like top of mind for me is like what would be different? What would be the value add? Because I don't want to take you down a path of like a tool that's like, hey, we already do this with ChatGPT.
Well,
so if you all are
ChatGPT is not ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the cool thing about what Replit is doing is that now everyone, to be honest, like would I take an 80% ChatGPT? Of course.
Yeah.
Like, and if it's specifically mine and tuned exactly to me, I forgot, someone was pitching me the other day on why you should build AI agents. And they basically said that most software for the last 2 decades was built for one person, and then it was shared with everybody.
Yeah.
That's the software we have.
That's true.
We spend, hundreds of billions of dollars on one ICP focus, and then we try to curate it for ourselves.
You try to make everyone else fit in that mold of the software instead
Exactly.
of the other way.
So
Yeah.
now, especially with what you guys are doing, being able to customize, and even if it's 70, 80%, like that's more than great.
Yeah.
And I can change it and evolve it, and I don't have to ask somebody why
Yeah.
they can't fix this, or I got to get to customer service. I can just do it myself even though I'm not technical.
Mm-hmm.
So take me down the road.
Yeah. I have one last idea,
Go for it.
which I wanted to pitch you on. I'm curious your take. So I saw you've been tweeting some content, which looks like it's for first-time founders, for people who are like, this is what should go in your pitch deck. This is like how you should approach investors. A lot of this information is hard to get to for someone who's like, again, has never done this stuff before. So I was like riffing on the call idea with Horatio, and it's like, what if someone could call you guys and basically do like that first pitch as like a practice run or something? Just like, what would an investor ask me? For someone who's never talked to an investor before, someone who's like they're building their business for the first time. So that's like an interesting one that kind of marries the two ideas, where it's like it takes the format and then it takes the call aspect. And
I have some thoughts on this.
Yeah.
So founders have a hard time. Well, let me step back. There's two roles of a founder.
Yeah.
The first role is to kind of like come up with the idea, motivate and convince people, and then build a product and sell to customers. And when I say motivate and convince people, that's to join you on your team. And then you have to sell to customers and kind of have to motivate them and convince them to buy. That's what most founders focus all their like time and energy on. The other issue is that you have to fundraise to keep the business alive, because the whole thing of a startup versus a small business, a startup is focusing on this like very edge case opportunity, and they need to win the market on that opportunity faster than anyone else. And so they need to like blitz scale by raising capital to move faster.
Yeah.
It's really hard to turn one light on and then turn that light off and go to fundraising. So to run a company and convince all these customers and people to work with you, and then to convince investors and put on that hat. And so I have thought about something, this was on a longer list of other tools, which was basically, could we have a fundraising bot or a fundraising Copilot where we could just put it out there for first-time founders, but we would have like a supercharged 2.0 version for our founders as they prepare for the Series A. Why is this important? Is because almost like 90% of companies don't make it to Series A.
Yeah.
And then once you get to Series A, like every time you go from Series A to B to C, like it increases 20% your likelihood to eventually get to being a unicorn and exit. So every time you go to a new round, like it just increases dramatically your probability of actually having an exit or having some type of success.
Yeah.
But that big cutoff starts at Series A, which right now most people are not even making it to. And so how do we help train folks to be ready for the Series A, which is like you need to be battle tested and understand all these specifics and details.
Yeah.
And you kind of need to turn off that like big time manager dream brain and be very maniacal and focused and like sell the vision.
How much of the not being able to raise a Series A is due to the fact of like not being able to tell the story correctly versus like maybe the business isn't Series A ready?
Well, a lot of businesses aren't Series A ready, but aside from that, because it is tough. It's really tough to get a company. So 0 to 1 million is like the first tranche. 1 to 3 is the second tranche, and then like 3 to 10 is the other tranche, and then it'll go further. But like, I would say almost 99% of companies can't make it to 3 million in revenue. Like it's really hard. And so, but outside of that, the people who can make it to that revenue, what keeps them from fundraising successfully is most likely storytelling and materials. Like, do your materials, or is data collected, if that makes sense. It's like, how data detailed are you? What story is your data telling? And then can you actually create an amazing narrative to help an investor understand that this is the best place you should put your money versus any other opportunity that comes across your desk. Just for reference, most investors see 4,000 to 5,000 companies a year.
Dang.
So imagine if you saw 4,000 to 5,000, even just like Replit tools a year, and you had to choose 2 or 3.
Yeah.
There will have to be some really strong specifics on why this one tool that someone built in your ecosystem is more important than all the 4,000 to 500 others you see every year.
Yeah, you need the fundamentals, and then you need everything on top of that to actually sell it, like show people why
Yeah, and
they should
the last
invest.
point I would say is that like gathering all that information is really hard.
Yeah.
Because you are running your business and doing all these other things, trying to hire, trying to sell customers, but pulling together all the data and analytics, putting together the pitch deck, doing pitch practice. There's a long list of other things. Getting a data room together that takes, for people who have no understanding of it, like 8 weeks, sometimes longer.
Yeah.
And a fundraise can take 3 to 6 months. So you're almost taking a whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that time where you're not like working on your business too.
Yeah.
On the other side.
And there's like,
Building out the product.
decision fatigue starts
sure.
to hit.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Analytics, always a cursed subject.
So what I would say is like these tools, what we want to start to build is we're kind of in the part of like post-investment, if you will.
Yeah.
We would love to build proprietary tools and technology that could almost automate those things
Yeah.
for our founders. And the more you can automate, the more they can focus on the business, but eventually maybe the more we can sell of how fast and how likely we can get you to Series A compared to other people.
Awesome. So which way does our heartstrings
Yeah, we got a lot
take
of
us
ideas
right now?
flowing. We should like pick one and then
Pick
try
one,
to
get a
some
golden
piece
feature.
of it working.
Yeah.
Let's try. I want to try. So if we went the call way, we would have to it would only be audio. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be like it calls their phone and they talk to it. But it could, so basically how it works, do you want to show a quick demo of that? It basically calls you and then it'll ask you questions. So it could walk you through the template that you shared, for example. It could be like, hey, I have to pull up the template, but like, how are sales this month? What are like the 2 to 3 main focuses for the business right now? Like any questions that you typically ask them, it would, like a bot would basically ask that over the phone and it would collect that information.
I also wonder, we invested in a company named Resonate, and they do missed calls for small business owners. And instead of actually calling, so basically if you call a dentist and they don't answer, you might just call the next one.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to catch you before you call the next one. But what they do is they just text you instead of call.
Yeah.
And apparently text is way easier.
Text kills.
So I'm
for
curious
response
if you
rates.
guys, even if there was say we weren't to do the scan,
Yeah.
if there was an either
Yeah,
or.
like a both way. I think that could work.
Don't have the text. We could start with calls and then end with. We could probably add text later. Like
Yeah, let's start with calls. I'm fine to start with that.
The one caveat is I might not have cell signal down here, so it's not reaching my phone.
Could try my phone.
We might have to add you as a founder on our tool here. So Aman, are you
I'll give you my
assuming
number.
your permission? And we'll obviously blur this thing out. We'll call. Alrighty,
I love this.
here we go. You could also fix it. Here, I can read
What
it.
do you want? You want
I could, if you just hand me your phone, I could
Okay.
type it out,
Sure.
and then
Do I
we'll
have
blur
to-
it.
Do you want? what do you
Oh,
want? You
yeah,
want my
I
number?
thought your number was on the
Oh, okay.
screen.
No. I thought I had to dial it over.
We'll just type it out. We'll blur it.
Bad. My number is here.
All right, sweet.
Yeah, it is
Everyone's
useful.
calling you.
Yeah, it is useful to have like the multimodal experience. Like you could call or you could do it via text. Because sometimes people just have the numbers there already. Just want to paste it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we could probably try to set it up both ways.
And I think that would be really helpful just because that's been an eye-opening thing. Like the entire, if you think about YC, the last like 4 or 5 batches, like almost like 20-30% of all the batches have been voice.
Yeah.
Yet there's no big voice player.
Yeah.
And so obviously it's a little contrarian for the company we backed, but he's like, voice just isn't ready yet. Not saying that it won't be, but text is so ready.
Yeah.
People respond to text so much. And for example, just, to pitch Resonate, they work with dental practices that have multi-locations. And essentially, as soon as you turn them on, which is almost just like you just create like a voice plugin and automatically text the person's number, they help 15 to 20 to capture 15 to 20 new customers a month without doing anything.
Oh, wow.
And that's conversion.
Yeah.
So they might reach out to like 40 or 50, but they convert 15 to 20 via text only.
Wow.
Dang.
Per
That's
location.
solid. That's really good.
Yeah, as a precursor. So for this one, I did like a couple prompts to do the dashboard. And then I tossed in this API called Thoughtly. And this is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of like the agent's logic. So this app, we actually met the founders. They're also one of the co-founder CEO is also a Ohio State alum.
Okay, I might need to chat with him.
NYC.
In NYC? Okay,
Yeah,
you might have to plug me.
We'll definitely have to intro you guys now. So they demoed this at another demo we were both at, and so
it was sick.
So
Yeah,
I was
cool.
like, let's give it a try.
I'm always skeptical of voice also, but I think it's getting closer now where you can't even tell sometimes that you're talking to a bot. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to rerun it.
Okay.
And let's see.
Yeah, no worries.
It's not coming through. We'll double check.
And I'm curious while you guys are running this, how much time would you say you spent on the agent so far?
For these prototypes,
Mm-hmm.
we try to spend like 30 minutes or an
Okay,
hour
cool.
before because we want to do a lot of the like.
Yeah, no, I was just
work
curious
here
if
as
it
a
was
group.
like a big heavy lift. 30
No,
minutes
no.
doesn't seem like
We
the massive challenge. Or
yeah,
anything.
we try to keep it simple before, and then we spend time here, and then we can continue after if we're interested in like getting it to something that works better.
Yeah.
You're looking at me like I should be getting.
No,
a call.
I like that it's in the view so then I can see if there's
Oh,
a call.
yeah.
coming through. But so far, nothing's coming through. What the heck? Oh, hang on. I think I might know. Ah,
It's in draft.
it's not even on. Yeah, it's a draft. Here we go. All right. Maybe we could call this both.
That's technology that would be great. Is like to understand if something is live. Or not.
Yeah.
So that's exactly the type of thing that I should have prepped and known. Well, luckily I did got familiar with the API, and that's like the type of prep before the show.
Yeah, but even
It's like
just
the
knowing
non-AI.
it,
Yeah.
like having an AI that it's like a software that understands how your software works.
Oh, getting a call.
Put it on speaker.
Hey there, this is your monthly founder check-in call. This is so that Harlem Capital and your investors can help with anything you or your team might be facing at this time. We'll start with a general question, then move on to talk about revenue, user growth, and current burn rate. Let's start with how is everything going in general?
Things are good. Just hired my first designer and pushing
It's
out.
great to hear that you hired your... It sounds like things are moving forward. Congratulations on hiring your first designer. That's a big step. Now, regarding the financial side of things, could you give a quick summary of your current revenue and burn rate?
Still no revenue yet. Hoping to close our first customer next month.
That's everything. Thank you so much for your input. Harlem Capital team will get on the action items noted in this call ASAP.
All right. That was like a quick demo version, I guess.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
going through like one prompt, but
Yeah, so that prompt can definitely be improved. Like I just whipped together this little box. Like it's just like this prompt here.
Yeah.
And then within that, it's supposed to extract some fields of, right now it's just burn rate, revenue, and then the general update. So like just general outlook. This was before I got the Notion doc, so we could definitely add more fields.
Okay, cool.
I am curious. Obviously, like this investor update is like a touch point for you and the portfolio company. How like is this something you'd want to automate, or is the relationship there important, like as more of a check-in, just like vibe check, how are things going? Or do you feel like on both sides you're like, let's just do this and get it over with?
This could definitely be. I mean, it's technically automated. We
Yeah,
created a
true.
template and say follow this template.
Yeah.
The main reason is that we have 30-minute monthly calls,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a short period of time. And so, asking someone about what's going on with their team,
Yeah.
what's updates with the product, what's updates on revenue and burn. By the time you get through all these things, you already spent 30 minutes. You didn't talk about any strategy
Yeah.
or any big problems. And so we want to have all the like extremely simple, straightforward things that are just like me asking a question and they have like a specific answer
Mm-hmm.
versus like I don't want to spend our time doing
Yeah.
that. I want to spend our time on the one or two problems. Hey, we let go of this person. We've been trying to rehire somebody and we're on our 7th interview and people keep saying no, they're going to another company.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we doing wrong in our interview process? That's going to take 10, 15 minutes, maybe longer, versus you could have just told me burn an email.
Yeah.
So we want to automate the very simplistic things so that we could do deep dives on the like second, third, fourth degree deeper
Right.
that can actually move a needle in the business.
Awesome. So we'll focus on numbers and then see where it generates.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what should be the end goal that we should pop up in here? Should we just like have the call recaps and show up on the dashboard?
Yeah. Maybe it would be cool if the dashboard could show the information from the call, but also let the founder input it like they do through Notion today.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's like to go both ways. Like they could either do it via call or do
Okay.
it via the form. Maybe you could just pass in a copy of that page, like the investor update template,
Okay.
and then we can
Right.
let that
Yeah.
Yeah.
right
Okay.
there. How does that sound?
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Like my opinion is if we were to even just start with text, like even
Yeah.
just a scanning of the information, that's good. The thing that we don't actually have, like it is hard for us to actually visualize all of those numbers from
Yeah.
every single company in one place.
Mm.
Okay.
So if you think about it, the heartbeat of a company is this monthly update.
Yeah.
They all come through Notion, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
We PDF the Notion from each month and put it on our box drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it. So we don't actually have a visualization of like company A through company Z, all their numbers in one place.
Okay.
So even if it was like, even if you said, hey, like we thought the voice thing was really cool,
yeah.
Yeah.
but
Let's
like let's just figure out a dashboard
Yeah.
that
What-
has
Let's try that.
information.
Let's just do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm trying to think in the interest of time. Could we iterate the
The dashboard one.
dashboard one to upload those docs?
Yeah.
We could generate a few fake docs with some fake information.
Yeah. I can make a
Um,
few
I can
ones while you're.
hide this part if you want, but I'm just going to download this real
Yeah,
quick.
I don't know. I'm not sure if there's anything actually on
Let's
there.
see this template. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like
Yeah,
a
it's a
template.
Like it's literally a template.
I just wanted to double check. I just wanted to double check. Yeah,
So
it's a pretty
dummy.
standard.
It's like a
invest-
literally, if you do this, just literally come in here and write whatever you need to write.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then obviously they could just like duplicate it to their personal Notion.
Yeah.
Okay, I got 3 fake
Here we go.
Got it.
investor updates.
Oh, okay.
That
Those are
fast?
filled out.
It
it doesn't
didn't-
look filled
it
out.
didn't Fill it out. Oh no, it filled out some of it.
Do you mind putting them inside of the REPL, like
Yeah.
inside of a folder?
Let me ask it to.
You got them in a folder?
I got it filled out now for real. Let's start with one and try to generate.
Okay. All good.
Even one is good enough.
All right.
Yeah, because if we're creating something that can actually visualize
Mm-hmm.
every single update that they already send, but put it across the entire portfolio, we can start to do slice and dice that
Yeah.
data however we want to. Very impactful.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's like basically taking huge PDFs, unorganized text, and then formatted it into like a dashboard. We could rebrand it as Doc Dash or something, like upload your docs and then create a dashboard out of anything. Okay, let's get it queued up with the
You
one
can actually
example.
probably get some vibe revenue to at least $1 million ARR.
Where it-
All
Wait.
right, I put the May one in as well.
Okay, sweet. Let me give it. Oh, it's not going to read a PDF exactly, so I should probably copy and paste some stuff.
Cool. All right. We can get back to it while you.
Oh, good.
Anything
Go.
else, or you're good on
I
that?
might just speak a prompt with Whisperflow.
Oh, okay, cool.
Um, there's some numbers in the fake doc, right?
There should be.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Let's say. All right, I'll queue it up. Hang on. First, let me give it the contents of the text and say, all right, we're going to do a big overhaul on this project. Let's just focus on the document uploading. All of them are going to be docx files or PDF files. And what we want to do is extract the revenue numbers and the burn rate numbers. All of the PDFs or docx files are formatted like this attachment here. And then we want to take all those numbers and be able to display them as a chart or a dashboard. given the data. Take time to process this and let me know if you have any questions.
The numbers are, I don't know if burn rate is specifically called
Okay.
as a number.
I'll call it that out so it doesn't get
there's,
confused.
There's forecast live revenue, month over month growth.
Okay. I'll
You
get
can
rid
see
of
it in the template. You can pull a couple of the.
I'll get rid of burn rate and then switch it with forecast numbers.
Yeah.
And then do one other investor update. And then we do that.
This is cool, though. I mean, this is for coding and making your own tools for people to almost sometimes painstakingly just sit and watch a screen.
Yeah.
This was impossible
Yeah, I mean,
for the entirety of humanity. No one would ever want to just watch someone else code.
yeah.
Now, everyone's like, yeah, I'll sit here if you're going to make a tool that could never have existed before. And even if there's some like one step forward and two steps back here and there, this is just so interesting and fun to do.
Yeah, I've talked to a bunch of people who sat on ideas for like 20 years, and they're like, I tried hiring a contractor, it didn't work. I finally am now able to do it in like a few days by myself, so it's crazy. All right,
It's cooking now.
All right, cool. So while it's cooking,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, I mean, obviously you have a background like blending creativity, media, investing, all of these things. I'm curious like how that creative angle plays in your day-to-day as an investor now, and how that creativity like influences your investing strategy.
I believe to be a great investor, I believe you need creativity. Right now, every company is getting, all the good companies are getting multiple term sheets. It feels like 2021 right now,
Yeah.
where every company is getting 10 term sheets, and a term sheet is just like an offer to invest. And it's really hard to cut through the noise as an investor because everyone's saying, hey, you're raising $3 million, we'll give you $3 million. So if 10 people tell you that they'll all give you $3 million, money is not the differentiator. It has to be something, some unique way that you can build a relationship, some unique way that you can add value, some unique way that you have like previous experience or some type of like proprietary information or technology that can help this company get from A to B at a better rate than anyone else. And that takes a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
And so I think for us, another piece of creativity is just like being open to fail fast and fail early and be early adopters of new things. And so I believe that's like a big reason why we're pushing for AI.
Yeah.
Because we know that there are going to be some laggers. And if we can be an early mover, we can build a reputation, we can build a community of people in AI much farther before others. Like we think that we'll be in a really good place. And so creativity is awesome. And then the other piece I would say is just storytelling.
Yeah.
I'm a big Naval person, Naval from who started AngelList. And I think it makes sense, the 4 levers of like creating wealth, where he talks about like capital, and then he talks about people. For venture fund, like our seed funds, we can only get so big. We can only hire so many people. So those things aren't really scalable for us. And then you have code or you have media. We do not necessarily know how to code, but we do have Replit.
Yeah.
But the other piece is like media is like stories are the reason why people wear the clothes that they wear, live in the cities that they live, have the religion that they have, maybe even like date and marry the person that they end up choosing is because of stories that they either told themselves or that they heard from someone else.
Yeah.
And so if you can use stories in a much more creative way, I think that no matter what industry you're in, you can be able to like be a top performer from just storytelling or like understanding psychology and things of that nature. So I'm leaning super deep into the media, into the storytelling to really try to make some type of unique connection with founders.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, storytelling is such a big part of, I feel like the fund's brand tied to like the bold mission, 1,000 diverse founders. That's big, right? That's like a big vision, big mission that you guys are going after. I'm curious how you balance like that purpose and then the profit in like a world that's kind of set up for like not set up to win in that way, right? Like no one's the system's kind of set up with walls for people that you're trying to represent. So how do you manage that?
Purpose and profit. I do like
Yeah.
that. I feel like we've said that before. So glad that that is what came to mind for you. We think that purpose opens up doors that like profit and money can't. And when you're opening up these like super unique doors, or you're pulling on these unique heartstrings by certain stories, you can get outcomes that weren't possible
Yeah.
before. And then when you mix that with technology advances that have never existed, we feel like we just have a good opportunity that if we can just be creative, if we can just keep putting one foot in front of the other and executing, we can be around long enough to capture lightning in a bottle. And if you can capture that lightning in a bottle once, you can build your whole career off that.
Yeah, for sure.
You just need one killer feature
Yeah.
or product. You need one killer company that you invest in, or killer idea. And that can really change the trajectory of your fund, change the trajectory of the companies that you invest in, even just like the generational wealth and impact you can have on the community that you're working for.
Still cooking, but I wanted to ask a question off of that. So one of those like key moments that could change someone's life as a founder is like your first investor, which is like what you guys are doing for founders. I'm curious, like, let's imagine a hypothetical scenario, a very hypothetical question of like, if you had to choose a moment in someone's life who might be underrepresented, where you can have the same pivotal impact, and you could like make sure that moment is reached for them. So like, say for example, like, oh, if I could somehow have a magic investment vehicle where everybody would get a killer math teacher in middle school, or like a parent that like supports them no matter what would you choose? Like if you had a magic wand and a magic investment vehicle.
This is a personal one for me. I would say like my father wasn't around growing up, and he ended up passing away when I was in college. And I think the last time I talked to him was like at 8 years old. I'm 35 now. And so I think because I didn't have a father around per se for most of my life, I don't know what it feels like. I have big brothers and like other people's family members who have been like very influential for me. But if you have that AI dad, I think that would be super sick. And for one example, like my girlfriend she has like a big like Latino family, and we just celebrated Mother's Day yesterday, and just talking to her dad and then all her cousins' dads and then all the moms and stuff. And I was like, man, this is just so cool.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the reason why, if you think about the biggest companies in the world, they're all like connecting people in some way. Like Microsoft is still just business connecting people. You know, Amazon's the same, Facebook or Meta is the same. And so what I would do is, especially for our community of diverse folks, having that backbone of that like male influence would be really great. And then maybe that's 1A, maybe 1B would be like therapy, like finding a way for someone to have like good therapy. Because obviously if someone's missing in your life, or you didn't have like the best upbringing, you might want to have that AI mom or dad or uncle, and then you might have to just chat a little bit through some of that like therapeutic things of like, why me? And that's a hard thing for people to really figure out. So I would love, that's a great question. Actually, you guys should ask that on most podcasts.
The magic investment vehicle question.
Yeah. I mean, it might be different in mine because, like, obviously, it was my upbringing and then also underrepresented. But you would assume, like, most of our mentors at Harlem are, like, extremely well-to-do founders of firms who have tens of billions of AUM. And most of the things that they're proud of is some philanthropic thing.
Yeah.
Or, some small help of something. It's not necessarily their firm or some big idea. which is cool to see at someone's stage.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Also, that's amazing. And there's some businesses that I think can only be built by certain people who've gone through some experience, right? I mean, we see it at work. Like when you have a diverse team at work, you bring different opinions in. And there's probably some businesses that could only exist because of some path that someone went down. I'm curious if you have any stories of like investments that you guys have made where like only that person could have built this because of something that they went through.
So we do have, this is funny you ask. So our first ever investment was into a woman named Claire Coder. She happened to actually go to Ohio State, and she's from Ohio, and she did Techstars New York. The reason why she did Techstars New York is because a lot of people who are outside of the coast have a hard time meeting investors. So even though she was based out of Columbus, Ohio, she did Techstars in New York. And so we saw her at the demo day, and she blew everyone out the water. We're like, who is this young person? And she ended up being our first ever investment. Her company's called UntFlow. It recently rebranded, I believe, just to Flow, but UntFlow, and it was women hygiene products. They would sell women hygiene products. They would sell them B2B. So like Twitter, Microsoft, Apple would have them in the bathrooms, but they're for free. And so she built out like this awesome dispenser tool that's proprietary that gives free, super high quality women hygiene products. And then what she realized is that her idea was women hygiene products should be free because toilet paper and paper towels are free. So anything that's natural to a human body should be free, specifically in the bathroom. And so she's been fighting laws on this, and where she's been able to get the law passed where it's free in all like public facilities in multiple states. Like she's like on the forefront doing the legislation for this. So much so now that she like sold the entire state of Utah is like one of her customers.
Dang.
That's amazing.
And so I would say now her next version is Flow instead of UntFlow, and it's because she wants to just take over the whole bathroom now. She wants to go after like Kimberly-Clark and all these other big incumbents. And she has been able to scale this business to like, mid 8 figures. Wow. And it's like, wow, like this is super awesome. She's like such a strong founder. We typically invest in B2B and software, but she like led us to water, and she has done so many other like amazing things. One just like small anecdote that I will share is like during the pandemic, all offices were closed.
Yeah.
So her revenue went to zero. Yeah. And because many of the things she was making with the women hygiene products were out of China, she became one of the biggest suppliers for any of the like mask or materials that we were using for the pandemic. And she like tripled revenue because she just had that access to these factories in China. And then once that died down, she like spun back up the women hygiene product and still grew revenue. And so she has like that grit. And she was a college dropout. She was like a Till Fellow, college dropout. We didn't realize that she was 20 or 21 when we invested. Still the youngest founder we've invested in to this day after 60 folks over the last 7 years.
Incredible.
It's a great story. Thanks for sharing. I
think we got a run. We got a result.
Let's see if it works.
Let's go. First test, we're going to download it. Let's rip it. So we got our 2 filler investor updates. Let's grab these. It's telling me to go upload them here.
The only other thing I was going to say is something we're doing at Harlem. We have an internship program that it's 10 weeks, and we do it 3 times a year, so 3 quarters out of the 4. And we now are putting each intern into like different pods, and one of the pods is research and incubation. And so we're basically going to use AI to research industries and ideas, and then we'll use AI to build some type of MVP. And then we're going to try to go sell.
Yeah.
We're going to try to like create revenue, and maybe we launch the company, maybe we find someone to come run it, maybe we invest in the space because we understood it. But I feel like we're going to have such new ways of being creative to find like an edge on understanding like what is a real pain point that we should invest in.
If it's not working, it's all good.
No dice on this one. Let's do one more debug.
Maybe what we could do after, if you want to send us a couple like stripped down versions of actual things, we could try to send over a fixed one that works.
Yeah.
And get you to test it out with your own data.
I feel like we could generate some fake reports and then test that way.
And then you can just share it and I can just run it.
Yeah.
We created one, Gabby on our team. She's like, was the only like former engineer, but she wasn't a big coder, but she did study engineering at Washington St. Louis. And we have this like benchmarking tool where basically as soon as you raise a seed round, like a clock starts. It's like a 2-year clock, so 24 months. Most companies who are successful to Series A raise within 24 months of their seed. And so wherever you're starting, whether it's 100K or 400K, we automatically graph it out of how fast you need to get to 2 million in ARR. Cool. And we basically check in on it every quarter with the founder. And then we kind of gradient the whole like line graph where basically anything above the line is green. Yeah. Right below the line is yellow, and then into that deep corner is red. And so we don't have to explain to founders what's going on anymore.
Oh, that's great.
We did that. We did it on Replit.
Oh, nice. I'm like a sucker for visualizations like that. So I feel like it makes it so clear to know where you're at every step.
Which gets us to the point of like, we don't have to talk about where you are. We need to talk about how do we get out of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Spot on.
Yeah, awesome. And she did that on Replit, so that was cool. Because we originally did it in just like a PowerPoint page. Yeah. And now she did it where any person could just plug in their stuff and create their own points on this dotted line graph.
Sweet. All right. Hey, guys, we're taking a quick break from the episode to jump to a few days later where we got the app working. During recording, we were actually running a bit short on time, so we just finished it up here and got it working as we wanted to on the episode. So Horatio is going to walk through the investor dashboard here, which lets you upload your files and get an overview of your portfolio companies.
Yeah, so don't want to leave anyone hanging. Like, we were short on time due to logistics stuff that came up, but this is what was running in the background towards the end of the episode that was taking a little bit longer than expected because it was restructuring the app. So basically what we ultimately wanted, or what we were trying to build, was this dashboard where we could add a portfolio company. And in here, we can basically create companies and upload investor updates like the template Brandon was talking about in the episode. And they look like this. We don't have these in Notion, but they usually come in Notion to their firm. So this is the same exact format of the template, but I downloaded them as docx files. You can upload docx, markdown, any text files work, and then basically put them into this dashboard, and they'll get processed by AI. And using OpenAI's structured output API, we can grab all of the numbers and data to be able to put all that forecasted revenue that's written in plain text, and then put it out in a structured format so that it can pop up in this easy to read dashboard and basically like a spreadsheet values. So even though they're just sending a document file in the form of a Notion doc, AI allows them to basically structure it into this nice dashboard so they can see month over month metrics in a formatted way. So yeah, that's basically what was running in the background during those last few minutes when we were running on studio time.
Awesome. Let's head back to the episode.
Sweet. So I've seen a couple of your interviews where you quote or mention Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, big self-development people. I'm also a sucker for that stuff as well. I really enjoy it. If you could take one of their lessons that you could give yourself or even the founders that you work with on a daily basis that you feel is like a good piece of advice that's like a rock. It doesn't even have to be from them, but like what's a mantra that you currently have that you just like uphold for how you approach life or work?
Two mantras, one from Jim Rohn and then one that was probably circa 2015 to 2017 where I was really into Jim Rohn. And for folks who don't know, Jim Rohn was the mentor to Tony Robbins. So We all know that Tony Robbins is the big guru, but his mentor was Jim Rohn. So the first one from Jim Rohn was work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And for someone who like studied economics and someone who worked on Wall Street and now runs their own VC fund, my job is a big part of it's a big part of your identity. And we work extremely hard on our jobs, most of us, if you will. And working harder on yourself than you do in your job is pretty hard because you work 40, 60, sometimes people work more than 80 hours a week on their job. And there's only 168 hours in a week. So like how much more can you actually work on yourself? And that just really took me back when I first heard that. And it actually just changed my just like outlook on life, where I just thought, as long as I'm working harder on myself than anything else, because you probably work hard on your job more than anything else. And if I'm actually working harder on myself than my job, then no matter what, I should probably not have to worry about generating income or creating wealth, because I am being like the top person that I can be at all times. And if I can do that in the small things, like waking up on time, going to bed on time, eating the right things, working out, then when hard problems come, I've already built a habit to do those things. So that was the number one thing of just like really whipping myself into shape. It's just like working hard on mastering oneself, which is extremely hard to do. And it's a never-ending journey, but it's like a great path to be on. The most recent mantra I've been living by is that all the problems in our life come from the stories we tell ourselves. Right? What happens to you, what happens to me, kind of happens to everybody. We all get disappointed, or something goes wrong, or we're really late somewhere, or we forget something, and it's kind of how we respond.
Yeah.
Right? What story do we tell ourselves? And what I realize is that if I can start telling myself positive stories versus the negative self-talk, I could really change the trajectory of what I believe is possible for myself. And not to get too heady, but like our external worlds are they're just a physical representation of what's going on in our mental. And so in my head, I'm like, whoo, I can change the physical world from here, but I have to tell myself the right stories here first. And that's really challenging as like a young person who wants to do really well and in a competitive environment, and you might compare yourself to others. And so I have really focused on telling myself much more positive stories, but also visualizing and emotionalizing what I could potentially do. What are the big swings? What are the big, hairy, audacious goals that are so large that I might be afraid to say them out loud, that I might be scared to even try to go swing the bat at them? How can I just think about those enough and visualize them enough and work on them enough to where they feel possible? And once they feel possible in here, I hope that they will be, come physical. And so I thank you for asking that question, because I love personal development, because I always just think that you can get better every single day.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
And just like that, we're going to make this a lot better. We were a little short on time, but due to logistic issues, but we really appreciate you coming out here.
Fantastic. I guess last thing, anything you want to share about how people should reach out to you, or what you guys are looking for the audience?
Yeah, so for Harlem Capital Early Stage Seed Fund, we write $1 to $3 million checks into your seed round. We look for 10 to 12% ownership. We've done a lot in B2B software, vertical software, and AI. But at the end of the day, we're just really excited to meet people who are on the bleeding edge of technology and building large businesses. So feel free to reach out to us. Our website is just harlem.capital. And feel free, like many of our emails of all the partners are on there, or you can check us out on social media.
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time,
Thank
Brandon.
you so
It's
much.
been a
man.
pleasure.
Yeah, it's
Thank
been
you.
great.